Ivana, what are you doing here? I had just returned from shopping when I saw a figure standing frozen at the front door. I was so taken aback that I dropped my shopping bags. What about your honeymoon? I came back alone. Upon hearing this, Ivana started to cry. I am Emily, a 58-year-old housewife. My husband is Oswald, who is 60 years old. And this is about my daughter Ivana, who was supposed to be on her honeymoon, but was inexplicably standing at our front door with her suitcase. Hold on, I'm totally lost here. For now, I led Ivana inside the house to hear the details. I placed Ivana's pink suitcase by the entrance and ushered her, still sobbing, into the living room. I then set a glass of iced tea on the dining table. Ivana began to sip it cautiously. I slowly began to ask questions, trying to piece the situation together. So you came back from Hawaii all alone? Yes. She was supposed to be in Hawaii for her honeymoon just 2 days ago. Why, exactly? I'm familiar with her husband Lloyd. He's a courteous man, and as far as I know, he has a significant role in a major company. He seemed very promising, like someone who could provide a stable life. That's why we celebrated their marriage. As Ivana began to speak, I learned a shocking truth. There was another woman there. Excuse me? On their honeymoon? A woman? My voice cracked in disbelief. So we ended up spending time together, all three of us. Wait, what? A honeymoon with 3 people? And a woman you didn't even know? Just hearing that made my blood boil. I pulled out my mobile phone, quickly found Lloyd's contact, and hit the call button. Wait, Mom. Ivana tries to stop me with a weak voice, but I totally ignore her. How dare he do this to my Ivana? Unforgivable. My hand holding the phone trembles. After about 3 rings, Lloyd picks up. Hold on. What's the meaning of this? You're hanging out with another woman? I started ranting without even waiting for Lloyd's response. Then, in an extremely bored tone, she's my sister, my actual sister. What are you misunderstanding? What? His actual sister? I don't know where to direct my gaze. Ivana has her head down, too. Sister? Your real sister? Yes, there's nothing shady going on. She's the sister who lives in Hawaii and couldn't make it to the wedding because her kid had an ear infection. Oh. So? I have a question too. I can't reach Ivana. Since you seem to know what's going on here, is she back with you? While saying this, Lloyd lets out a sigh on the other end of the phone. Women really go off the handle so easily, making a fuss, and then fly all the way back to Boston on a whim. Is it the female hormones that make you act so irrationally? Even if I got it a bit wrong, there's no need for that kind of language. That comment was totally insensitive toward women. I'm getting pretty steamed. The one who acted on emotion and left is your Ivana. I'll be staying in Hawaii as planned for a week. When I get back, I expect a full apology. Please let Ivana know that's the plan. With that, Lloyd hung up abruptly. I really can't wrap my head around this situation. Yeah, me neither. But Mom, you kind of jumped the gun with that phone call before we could get the full story. According to Ivana's explanation. As soon as they arrived in Hawaii, it seems Lloyd's real sister was waiting for them at the hotel. Lloyd told me, so, my sister will put you through some special training to see if you're worthy of being my partner. I've never heard of a honeymoon where the groom's sister tags along to give lessons in housekeeping. What? We never talked about this. I wanted to visit the beautiful beaches and Mauna Kea Mountain. When Ivana stammered this out. That's your problem, isn't it? Ivana felt emotionally shut out. But you said you wanted to go, too. Once my sister's special training is over, we can go wherever we like. Of course, all three of us. The reason we chose Hawaii, where my sister lives, is precisely for this. Then, a woman named Sanaya, the sister, said, "Enough talk. From today, I'll be giving you an intense homemaking course. I've been doing this for years, as both a wife and a mom. I want to go all out to help my brother's marriage. Off to my house we go." So, it seems this mysterious training started unfolding. So, what happened once you got to the sister's house? I found myself parched. I poured more iced tea into my empty glass to encourage the storytelling. Even though Lloyd is usually serious, it was clear from that phone call that he looked down on women, and Ivana as well. Turning a honeymoon into a housekeeping training camp? Hearing this almost made me want to throw my iced tea in anger. Go on. Ivana continues the story, haltingly. The house they were driven to, Sanaya's home, was cluttered with children's toys. First lesson in housekeeping cleaning. Apparently, she was told to clean up the scattered toys. Next is the shower room and also the toilet. While Ivana was doing the work, Sanaya, claiming to be supervising his housekeeping skills, was spending time with Lloyd in the living room. Isn't this basically using your partner for menial tasks under the guise of visiting home? Doesn't it feel like harassment? When I pressed for more details. That's not all. Fresh tears streamed from Ivana's eyes. They told me to make dinner. For Sanaya's family of 4 plus the 2 of us, just using what was in the fridge. I've never cooked for 6 people before. I thought I'd learn how to cook as we went along in our marriage. I couldn't even come up with a menu. Ivana's ordeal continued. So, I found some eggplant in the fridge and tried to look up recipes on a cooking community website on my phone. Then Sanaya said, "You should be able to cook by eye. Using your phone is unacceptable." She took my phone away and said, "This is a failure. I'm going to need to give you some intensive training. We're changing all our vacation plans to stay at our house." The entire vacation? Even one day would be ridiculous, but the whole vacation? So, that was it. Apparently, she took back her phone and returned home, sobbing. What even is this? Ivana was really looking forward to their honeymoon. The hotel had a sparkling pool and a view of the blue ocean. They must have been excited to try poke bowls and Hawaiian plate lunches. But Lloyd and Sanaya trampled over those dreams so easily. Then, Ivana, tears streaming down her face, brought up a suggestion. Interesting, sounds like a plan. I decided to support Ivana with all my might. As soon as the honeymoon was over, Ivana received a call from Lloyd. We're coming over tomorrow to discuss how we're going to live from now on. When Ivana asked, "What do you mean by how we're going to live?" You failed as Lloyd's partner, so we need to discuss what's next. Sis said you're a total failure in the kitchen. We need to talk specifics. Sis is coming with me, so listen carefully and think about where you went wrong. What? Reflect on my actions. I was about to explode with anger at that arrogant and unreasonable demand. But them coming over actually works in my favor. I decided to handle this calmly. Finally, the day of the confrontation arrived, and Sanaya and Lloyd showed up. Well, Ivana, done any reflecting? Lloyd starts off with arrogance right away. The serious demeanor he had during our first meeting seemed to have flown away. For now, please come in. I led the 2 of them into the living room. Now, let's start the Ivana's partner test. I called out loudly for my husband, who was waiting in the other room. All right. My husband walks in holding a yoga mat, a confident smile on his face. Gotta keep in shape to protect the family. First, we're going to work on our core and back muscles. My husband has recently become concerned about aging and started going to the gym. With thrice weekly workouts guided by a personal trainer, he's got a solid chest, even at 60. All right, we're doing push-ups on this mat. It's a competition. Lower yourself down for 3 seconds, count slowly, and then push back up. That's 1 rep. If you don't stay down for 3 seconds, you won't engage your core muscles. What? Lloyd, who appears to have never worked out a day in his life, is utterly shocked. If you're saying Ivana needs a Lloyd's partner test, then I'm going to test if you're fit to be Ivana's partner. Keeping in shape is important for family support and child rearing, too. Now, place your hands slightly wider than shoulder width apart and get into a push-up position. Come on, hurry up. It felt like boot camp, as if a merciless drill sergeant was waiting to put Lloyd through the ringer. Both my husband and Lloyd assume the push-up position. And 1. At that moment, Lloyd collapses onto the floor and can't get back up. He's stuck to the floor like a squashed frog. Ha 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 ha. You can't do it. I can do 50, you know. My husband is breezily doing push-ups beside him. His glasses are askew, his tie is crooked. Lloyd remains collapsed. All right, you're next. I turned to Sanaya, who was standing there, dumbfounded. Well, what? Me too? Now it's Sanaya's turn to be surprised. You seem to be fond of my Ivana. I'll be the judge of whether you have the ability as a mom and a wife, and whether you're fit to guide my Ivana. Yes, this was the retaliation plan that Ivana had suggested to me. Sanaya's home had mold growing in the shower, and her toys were just pushed to the side. She wasn't exactly in a position to teach me how to clean. Based on what Ivana told me, I had formulated a plan. Then, I forcefully pulled Sanaya into the bathroom. I've left it dirty just for you. This is your test. Now, start cleaning. Sanaya tried to deflect, saying, I came here for a discussion from Hawaii. Huh? Didn't you make Ivana do chores under the guise of guidance and steal his leisure time? Well, I'm just returning the favor. Clean up quickly and call me when you're done. The next test awaits. I go back to the living room and make some good tea. I hand a cup to Ivana, who's quietly watching the plan unfold, and we both sit on the sofa. Meanwhile, Lloyd is struggling with his workout and getting berated by my husband. His neatly styled hair is now a mess. After a while, Sanaya returns to the living room. I finished cleaning. Oh, that was quick. She says, peeking into the bathroom. It had taken her nearly an hour, so she must have done a decent job. At first glance, it looks clean, but there are clear traces of water streaks on the walls. If you don't wipe the water off shiny surfaces immediately, they'll get cloudy. Don't you even know that? Especially the mirror, it will get those white water stains. And you dare call yourself Ivana's mentor? I gave it to her, holding nothing back. Sanaya tried to make an excuse, saying, there's no mirror in my home shower room. Well, I've heard from Ivana, who cleaned your house, that there indeed was a mirror. I quickly shot back. And she said there was also a lot of black mold. Clearly, you've been neglecting it. Sanaya was left without a comeback. But I couldn't let her off the hook that easily. All right, next up is sewing. Get to the sewing machine. What? Just as she thought she could relax after cleaning, another task was upon her. A sewing machine is a must, isn't it? I've heard your child is still small, but it's a given. quilted fabric from when I made Ivana's lunch bag ages ago. Sanaya and I headed to the craft room upstairs. Peeking into the living room, I saw Lloyd was still getting a serious workout. He might even pull a muscle or something. "You'll make a simple bag with this fabric. I've already done the cutting for you. Aren't I kind?" "A sewing machine, you say?" "You're not going to tell me you've never used one, are you? You can do all sorts of housework, right?" I took Sanaya's hand and made her sit in front of the sewing machine. "I don't know how to thread it." Sanaya looked down, clearly uncomfortable. "Excuse me?" "So, about threading the machine." What? "I can't thread it." I looked down at Sanaya, who was frozen in front of the sewing machine, and chuckled in disbelief. "You claim to be a mentor, but you don't even know this?" "Ivana. Come here." I called out to Ivana downstairs. "Coming." Ivana arrives. "This lady here, she doesn't know the first thing about sewing." As I smirked. "Oh dear, Sanaya, like this." Ivana threaded the machine for her. Sanaya's face turned beet red, as if she couldn't bear the humiliation. "Now, go ahead." Surrounded by the two of us, Sanaya started the sewing machine. Clatter, clatter, clatter. The stitching was all over the place. Pfft. I couldn't help but burst out laughing at her poor attempt. Ivana was also holding back a laugh, looking down. Some stitches were too deep, and others weren't aligned at all. "Ivana, show her how it's done, will you?" "Sure, but usually, you should do a securing stitch at the edge first." "Well, it can't be helped, can it?" She started sewing without any know-how. Our so-called leader here knows nothing. Ivana skillfully operated the sewing machine, stitching it straight. Having loved sewing from a young age and being in the sewing club through middle and high school, this was a piece of cake for Ivana. Watching that, Sanaya grumbled. "You can just pay someone at a craft store to sew the bag for you." "Really? Then what's the difference between outsourcing your sewing to a craft store and replacing your lack of cooking skills with supermarket pre-made meals? There are things you can do that Ivana can't, and vice versa. Stop making excuses and picking and choosing to suit your convenience." I said just that and headed down to the living room. On the first floor, Lloyd was still sprawled on the floor. It looked like he couldn't even get up anymore. Beside me, my husband was striking some sort of muscle pose. "All right, let's have a talk, all of us." Still trembling with humiliation, Sanaya managed to take a seat on the sofa, along with Lloyd, who had somehow managed to get up. Ivana, my husband, and I sat across from them. "First, take a look at this." I laid out the sewing pieces from both Sanaya and Ivana on the table for everyone to see and compare. It's downright hilarious that someone who can only produce something this shoddy would act like they're in charge. Lloyd stared at his sister's wobbly stitching, completely stunned. That said it all. Sanaya was at a loss for words, her hands trembling. "This one's a mess, too. Unbelievable that they only had Ivana do the special training." This time, it was Dad who laid into Lloyd. "You've been going on about women, but we really have to question how you're doing as a man yourself," I added, driving the point home. Okay, this is probably a good place to stop. That's right, I remembered something Ivana and I had agreed upon that day. "Ivana, go ahead and bring it out." Ivana presented some documents. "It's not a quick divorce or anything, but I just can't go on with you anymore. I'm glad I realized it sooner rather than later." Ivana stated it firmly. "What?" Their voices of surprise came out in unison. Both widened their eyes, flustered and mouths moving but no words coming out. "Hold on." I was thinking of forgiving you as long as you showed some remorse. Finally, Lloyd spoke up. Sure, I can't cook, but that's not something I need to be sorry about. Devoting all our honeymoon to training and bringing in Sanaya, it's all just too absurd. I can't be with you anymore. Ivana started signing the papers with a pen. Wait, so it's my fault you're getting a divorce? All I did was point out your flaws. Now it was Sanaya's turn to panic. Ivana shook his head. I never said I can't cook. I was planning on learning eventually. Besides, she paused for a moment. Just like I have things I can and cannot do, so does Sanaya. Judging that solely based on your own convenience and standards is wrong, she said, setting the record straight. I went in for the kill too. You can't even sew or clean, acting all high and mighty. Plus, you ruined the honeymoon and treated Ivana like a servant. I'm too embarrassed to be related to you. Just sign the divorce papers and get out. And so, Ivana came back to our home. Sanaya got divorced because she was terrible at housekeeping. How dare she continuously harass Ivana, claiming to be some sort of mom or Lloyd's partner, without even considering her own flaws. This is what we call personal responsibility. Meanwhile, Lloyd kept making mistakes at work due to his inconsiderate personality. He even said something insensitive to a female coworker like, "These documents are a mess. Are you not in the mood to work just because you're feeling unwell?" He faced severe disciplinary action and was suspended from work. Would you come back? If you reflect on this, I believe we can start over, and I feel like I could even get my position back at work. It seems like Ivana kept getting messages from Lloyd pressuring her to get back together, despite showing no signs of remorse. That's not going to happen. I'm getting married. With that, she promptly cut off communication. Yes, Ivana is set to remarry in 6 months. Her new partner is also a businessman, similar to before, but much more easygoing. He's into bowling and has a fit physique. As long as I can eat, I'm good. When they dine together, they get excited talking about things like protein for bodybuilding. Ivana, who's now seriously learning to cook, joins her in the kitchen. I mean, I could at least make scrambled eggs. While making sandwiches for work, Ivana recalls those days. It's okay, don't worry about it. You'll get the hang of it as you go along. With that said, I seasoned the dish just by eyeballing it. The crying kids and the wife who doesn't do housework are just in the way. Upon returning home from visiting her parents, Emery was greeted by these unbelievable harsh words from her brother-in-law, Mark. To make matters worse, Mark left Emery and her child behind at our house and went back alone. The worst. Was Mark always hiding his true nature? The action I took, shaking with anger. My name is Violet. I retired last year after working for many years. I have a daughter named Emery. When Emery was 5 years old, her father fell ill and passed away. Since then, I've raised Emery with all my love, by myself. Emery has always been a kind child. She sometimes felt lonely without her father, but grew up to be a bright and honest good child. At the age of 25, Emery married a man named Mark and became a housewife. Emery and her family live in an apartment an hour away by train from my house. One day, I received a call from Emery. Mom, I'm pregnant. I was overjoyed to hear about Emery's pregnancy. That's wonderful. How are you feeling? If there's anything I can do, just let me know. Congratulations, I said, offering my blessings. Imagining a bright future, I even started thinking about passing on my house to Emery and her family someday. Hoping for the health of both mother and child, I spent my days looking forward to the birth of a healthy baby boy. Emery decided to come back home for about a month with her son after giving birth, and I did everything I could to support Emery so she could rest a bit. Bathing, changing diapers, feeding milk. Taking care of a baby after so long was challenging but fulfilling, and most importantly, my grandson was so adorable that I was motivated to do anything. Emery tried to do as much as she could on her own, but I always told her not to overdo it postpartum. Thinking of Emery's health, I prepared nutritious meals. "Mom, thank you so much. This really helps," Emery would always say, expressing her gratitude. I was enjoying life with Emery and my grandson, but one thing bothered me. Emery's husband, Mark, hardly ever came to our house. I thought it was normal for a husband to come and see his wife and child. 2 weeks later, Mark finally came to our house. However, he barely exchanged a few words with Emery and didn't even bother to look at the baby sleeping in the crib on his own. Emery picked up the baby to show him, but Mark showed little interest. I suggested to Mark, "Why don't you stay over tonight?" But Mark declined, saying, "No, I'm busy with work, so I'll pass," and left soon after. I felt uneasy about Mark's indifferent behavior, showing no affection for the baby or consideration for Emery, but I continued to support Emery and take care of my grandchild with dedication. After that, Mark never showed his face again. A month flew by, and it was time for Emery and my grandson to return home. Feeling lonely again, I hoped the family of 3 would support each other. Even though Mark had a lukewarm response when he visited, living with the baby might gradually nurture his paternal instincts. Maybe he only came once because he was really busy with work. Convincing myself of this, I hoped for Emery's happiness. But a week later, when I noticed noise at the front door, I found Emery, my grandson, and Mark. Emery looked pale and worn out. Mark was saying to Emery, "The crying kid and you, not doing housework, are both in the way. Stay at your parents' house for a while." I was shocked into silence. Noticing me, Mark lazily said, Violet, please take care of the kid for a while. I'm leaving Emery here too." Violet, please take care of the kid for a while. I'm leaving Emery here too." And tried to leave. I was about to yell at Mark, but held back when I saw Emery tightly holding the baby. "Yes, that's fine." My voice was strained, but Mark, seemingly indifferent, said, "I'll come to pick them up eventually," and left without a second glance at Emery or the baby. After inviting Emery and the baby inside and asking what happened, Emery suddenly started crying. Comforting her, I was stunned by what she finally managed to say. "Mom, Mark says he's bothered by me and the baby." Upon asking for details, it turned out Mark would rage about the baby's crying and his inability to work from home. Mark's company allows him to work from home a couple of days a week. He also berated Emery, believing extreme articles online about perfect parenting and housekeeping during maternity, or unrealistic knowledge about pregnancy and childbirth. "Why is the house such a mess? There are dishes piling up. Don't use childcare as an excuse for your laziness." He criticized Emery for neglecting housework due to childcare, despite not helping at all. Finally, he left Emery and the baby at our doorstep, saying, "The crying kid and the wife who doesn't do housework are just in the way. Take care of them at your parents' house for a while," and went back alone. After hearing Emery's story, I felt a surge of anger and immediately contacted Mark's parents. When I told them about Mark's treatment of Emery, they said, "Well, but please understand Mark's feelings. It's unpleasant if a house is messy." I was speechless with astonishment. They even said, "We wish Emery would be more considerate of Mark." To which I calmly replied, "It's ridiculous to put all the burden on Emery without helping with childcare or housework." I continued to lecture them. Eventually, Mark's parents seemed to understand what I was saying. When I called Mark himself and lectured him, "You're always complaining to Emery, but have you ever changed the baby's diaper or fed him milk even once? As a married couple, you need to cooperate." Mark wouldn't listen. Instead, he said, "Speaking of which, Violet, you mentioned before about giving us your house. When will that be?" Completely ignoring Emery and the baby to inquire about the house, he said in a frivolous tone, "Our current apartment is too small, so I really want to move into your larger house soon." Aghast, I replied, "I'll hand it over once you come to properly take Emery and the baby and can live together as a family," and hung up the phone. Was Mark always like this? I feel so sorry for Emery. Mark seemed like a perfect gentleman during family meetings, but I'm shocked he was hiding his true nature. Emery must have only seen the good in Mark when deciding to marry him. It's no exaggeration to say she was deceived. For now, I must protect them until Mark properly comes to pick them up. And so, our life together, with me, Emery, and my grandson, began. Emery gradually regained her spirits, and my grandson grew up healthily. 7 months later, when Mark finally came to pick them up, he was stunned to see our house. "What the? Why is everything gone?" The site was cleared. In a panic, Mark called Emery. On the phone, Mark yelled, "Hey! Why is the house gone? What happened to the promise of giving us the house? And where are you guys now?" To this, Emery calmly demanded a divorce, saying, "You finally showed up? It's too late. The child, Mom, and I have moved. Let's get a divorce." Actually, since Mark didn't come to pick them up for a long time, I sold the house and cleared the land. If he had come sooner and sincerely apologized to Emery, things might have been different, but since there was no sign of that, I decided to sell the property. By then, Emery had already resolved to divorce Mark. I hadn't expected him to come after 7 months. During this time, we managed to find a strong lawyer for the divorce and a new place to live with the money from the sale of the house, so maybe the timing was right in a way. But it was way too late. What did he think of Emery and our grandson? Mark screamed, "Divorce! Why would it come to that? I will never agree to it. Tell me where you've moved to, I'll come." But Emery responded, "I will never tell you. I'll send the divorce papers by mail, please sign them," and hung up the phone. We didn't move to a neighboring city but to a distant one, buying a spacious apartment with the money from the house sale. With a large park nearby and supermarkets and drugstores within walking distance, it's a great location for raising a child. Emery and I are completely satisfied with our new apartment, enjoying a relaxed life of parenting. Mark often called afterward, only saying, "I will never agree to a divorce." Emery reiterated her request for a divorce, saying, "If you could ignore us for 7 months, we must not be needed. Please come to terms with it and agree to the divorce." But Mark threatened, "Do you plan on taking away my parents' first grandchild?" However, Emery informed him, "Your parents have been visiting regularly, so they're well aware of the child's growth." Actually, after I lectured them over the phone, Mark's parents changed their minds, apologized to us, and even came to our doorstep to offer a deep apology for their rudeness. They repeatedly tried to persuade Mark to pick up Emery and the child, but he refused to listen. They disowned Mark, saying, "A person like that is no son of ours," and urged him to agree to the divorce quickly. Mark panicked. "Why are you suddenly saying this? Dad, Mom, that's terrible." They cut him off. "You had 7 months. We're severing ties with you as parents." Emery coldly told Mark, "Your parents have disowned you, haven't they? I also want to sever ties with you as soon as possible through divorce." Disowned by his own parents and abandoned by his wife, Mark finally conceded to the divorce. Regarding custody, although Mark said, "I want the custody," Emery countered, "I want the custody." Emery countered, "You've never even changed a diaper. What are you talking about?" Naturally, Emery was granted custody. Mark ended up paying child support in a lump sum, and the divorce was finalized. Initially, Mark wanted to pay child support in installments, but Emery insisted on a lump sum, not trusting him, so Mark reluctantly agreed. This left Mark almost broke, leading to a life of poverty after paying child support in one go. Thinking that remarrying Emery would bring back the child support, Mark began frequently demanding to remarry. "Emery, I'm really sorry. I won't blame you anymore. I can even tolerate a bit of mess and change diapers occasionally. Let's remarry," Mark said ridiculously, but Emery replied, "You still don't understand what you did wrong. I don't see any willingness to cooperate. Anyway, even if you changed now, I would never remarry you." Mark still hadn't grasped the concept of cooperating on childcare and housework as a couple, continuing to make irrelevant remarks. Emery said, "Since I've already received the child support, there's no need for us to communicate anymore. I'm blocking you. Goodbye," and blocked Mark. Both I and Mark's parents also blocked him. Emery expressed relief. "I feel so refreshed. It's a liberating feeling." Later, when Mark found it difficult to pay his apartment rent and return to his parents' home, he discovered it was for sale. Standing in front of the now empty lot, he muttered, "You've got to be kidding. Did Dad and Mom sell the house too?" Having lost his home, Mark was at a loss and reluctantly returned to his apartment, leading a lonely and impoverished life. Soon, whispers and rumors about him began to spread among the neighbors. The word was that he had driven away his wife and child with his selfish behavior, and even his own parents had disowned him. Since Emery was well liked by the neighbors, they looked down on Mark, saying, "To treat such a wonderful DIL so terribly." Even going to the convenience store near his house became a challenge for Mark, as he was conscious of people's stares, resorting to sneaking out late at night. Moreover, news of Mark's misconduct had spread at his workplace, resulting in cold treatment from everyone. Mark had a tendency to arrogantly believe everything he read online, and he wasn't very popular at work to begin with. This incident further lowered Mark's standing at work, and he was even lectured directly by a senior female colleague with experience in child rearing. As a result, Mark found no peace either at work or home, leading a life of discomfort. Stress led him to gambling, starting with a casual visit to a pachinko parlor, eventually spiraling into a life of debt. His gambling addiction led to a nocturnal lifestyle, resulting in unauthorized absences and napping during work hours, until he was finally fired. Evicted from his apartment, Mark was forced to move to a cheap, run-down property. Unable to secure stable employment, he scraped by with day labor. His gambling continued unabated, and his debt only grew larger. Despite everything, Mark never considered his own actions to blame, ranting into the night, "Why do I have to suffer like this? Damn it all!" His loud complaints resulted in complaints from neighbors and even attention from the police, showing no sign of redemption. Meanwhile, I thoroughly enjoy living with Emery and my grandson, occasionally having tea with Mark's parents, maintaining a good relationship. Mark's parents moved about 30 minutes away by car, and have completely cut ties with him, determined never to help him again, no matter what. They have no intention of telling him their new address. My grandson is soon turning 1. We plan to celebrate his first birthday grandly with Emery and Mark's parents. Though he lacks a father, Emery, I, and all of us together plan to give him all the love we can. Emery has grown stronger both as a mother and as a woman, currently in the midst of job hunting. She's more vibrant and radiant than ever. I look forward to supporting Emery and witnessing my grandson's growth. Pack my stuff too and make sure you handle it with care. Naturally, I'll be taking the biggest room, Vincent declared as the moving day to our new home approached. My husband Kendrick and I were busy with preparations for the move. It was during this time that Vincent, Kendrick's unemployed brother who lives with us, insisted we pack and transport his belongings as well. That house is perfect for someone elite like me, so I'll be coming along, he added. My name is Rachel, a 29-year-old working mother with a job in medical administration. Kendrick, also 29, is a salaried employee. Despite our busy schedules, we manage to divide household chores. I take care of meals and laundry, while Kendrick handles cleaning. We enjoy a close relationship, spending our weekends traveling and leading a fulfilling life together. One day, Kendrick received a call from his friend Tariq. I've decided to start a new company. You were interested in this industry, right? After giving it some thought, I realized I need your skills. Please, join me in this venture, Tariq passionately pitched. After some contemplation, considering Kendrick had shown interest in this field before his current job, I encouraged him to accept Tariq's offer, which he did. Tariq lives in a location far from where we currently reside, prompting us to decide on moving to work together. Tariq's father, a successful businessman, caught wind of our situation and generously offered to prepare a home for Kendrick and me. The house, with its trendy design and sophisticated interior, excited both of us. 2 months before the move, we received a call from Kendrick's mother, Cordelia, about his father, Taylor, who had been hospitalized following an accident. It seems Taylor will have lasting effects from his injuries and will need to move into a care facility, but there's no immediate availability. He can be admitted by the end of next month, so could you help support Taylor until then? Not long ago, Taylor was involved in an accident and had been living in the hospital. While his life wasn't in danger, he was left with aftereffects that made walking difficult without a cane or assistance. We were planning to hire a home health aide, but since they wouldn't be available 24/7, there was a desire to have more hands on deck. Despite hearing that living together for caregiving often leads to trouble, my relationship with my in-laws has always been very positive, without any issues. They've even given me gifts from their travels and celebrated my birthday, showing their care for me regularly. So, we happily agreed to Cordelia's request to move in and assist with Taylor's care until our move. Cordelia then whispered something difficult to say. Thank you. But, there's one thing I need you to promise. Hearing this promise left me in shock. Since moving in with the in-laws, our relationship remained as good as ever, except for one thing, Vincent, Kendrick's brother, who was always a source of concern. Vincent, 2 years Kendrick's senior, was notably gifted, easily gaining admission to a prestigious university. Afterward, he secured a position at a well-known, leading corporation, but reportedly quit soon due to an inability to mesh with the workplace culture. For a time, he seemed keen on re-employment, but lately, he dismisses job opportunities, scoffing, "An elite like me shouldn't settle for such conditions." Currently, he sporadically works part-time jobs for leisure money while residing at his parents' home. Despite efforts to encourage his departure, Vincent's imposing nature often led to confrontations. Even after changing the locks, he would ambush the in-laws, forcefully enter the house, and replicate the keys to maintain his presence without concern. Living with someone like that, I knew wouldn't be easy, and indeed it was as I feared. In Vincent's eyes, Kendrick was the failure of a brother, and I was the incompetent DIL brought by the failure. Despite prior discussions about cohabiting for Taylor's care, Vincent demanded, "Hey Rachel, I'm starving. Isn't dinner ready yet? Why am I having fish? I was in the mood for meat today, you incompetent woman. The room's getting messy, clean it up. And don't touch the stuff on the shelves, making me handle nearly all his personal needs. Of course, I ignored most of Vincent's demands, but he would still consume meals prepared for Taylor or leave his trash in front of my room as he pleased. Even reluctantly caring for Vincent elicited no thanks, only a sense of entitlement. After returning from work on weekdays, I'd start on household chores and assist with Taylor's care, making for hectic days. Moreover, Vincent treated me like a servant, repeatedly boasting about his university and corporate experiences, taking up my time. I considered leaving multiple times, but convinced myself to endure it just for the 2 months until we moved to our new home. Since our stay was temporary, we hadn't unpacked much, simplifying the moving process. Now, we just awaited the completion of our house to transfer our belongings. One day, Vincent woke up past noon as usual, looked at the leftover lunch, and sneered at the poor meal before mockingly laughing at us. "Hey, incompetent woman, make sure my stuff is moved into the biggest room. Handle it carefully, don't you dare scratch anything. When are you moving, Vincent? Let me know the address, and I'll arrange the movers for you," I replied. At that, Vincent sighed deeply, berating me for a while for being useless and stupid. Then, he started accusing Kendrick of snooping through his computer and emails. That house seems decent enough, though living there is the true test. The location and layout seem good. Plus, with a supermarket nearby, Rachel can quickly get anything I need. He noted after apparently reviewing our new home's details, asserting his move with us. Of course, an elite like me will take the largest room. He sneered, prompting me to bite back a retort, but I held back. Smiling, I simply agreed and ended the conversation with Vincent. Behind me, Vincent's delusions about the new home continued, envisioning a scenario where he, the non-contributor, was supported by Kendrick and me working tirelessly from dawn to dusk. That night, I shared Vincent's behavior with Kendrick, Cordelia, and Taylor. "Rachel, do you remember the promise?" Cordelia asked. "Yes, of course. I've told Vincent we would pack his things," I replied, nodding solemnly to Cordelia, who then sighed deeply. On moving day, thanks to thorough preparation, our transition to the new home went smoothly without any hitches. With Tarek's help, we were able to finish unpacking earlier than planned on the day of the move. The fresh scent of the new construction, combined with the sophisticated design of the exterior, entrance, and the functional storage spaces throughout the rooms, made us truly feel the start of our new life, lifting our spirits. That night, Kendrick, Tarek, and I celebrated our new home and the future of our company, opening the champagne Tarek brought, and enjoyed ourselves until late into the night. The next morning, in our new home, I received a call from Vincent. Answering the phone with my head still foggy from the alcohol, Vincent angrily demanded, "Hey, what's the meaning of this? Why are my things still here?" Kendrick quickly took the phone from me and calmly explained, "We did exactly as you asked, placing your belongings in the largest room. Isn't that what you wanted?" Indeed, we did place Vincent's belongings in the largest room, just as he had instructed us to. That room was the living room of the family home. Vincent, having been lied to about the moving day, went out as usual and returned in the morning to find the house empty. He was utterly confused, unable to grasp the situation. Interrupting his tirade of insults, Kendrick firmly informed him of the future of their parents' house. "Also, Vincent, you need to leave soon. Dad sold the house during the move, so you can't live there anymore." Vincent, stunned, began loudly calling for Taylor and Cordelia. However, Taylor had already moved into a care facility, and Cordelia had started living alone in a small apartment nearby, so no one was there. "Are you kidding me? Leaving me behind and doing whatever you please? You're the one joking, Vincent. Thinking you can just show up at your brother's place and have everyone take care of you is insane." Kendrick, having lost all admiration for Vincent, who was once considered elite, ended the call with a sigh, showing his frustration. He rejected all return calls and even blocked Vincent's number, finally freeing us from his burden. A week after moving, I received a call from a friend living near our old family home and took the opportunity to inquire about Vincent's current situation. Vincent, it seems, had refused to leave the family home, believing it impossible to sell a house with someone still living in it. The real estate company, brought in by Taylor to handle the sale, found itself at a loss with Vincent and issued eviction notices from both Taylor and the company. Only after such measures did Vincent finally accept the sale was real. He attempted to cancel the sale, but since the property belonged to Taylor, Vincent's protests were in vain, leading to repeated eviction notices from the real estate company, almost reaching a legal standoff before Vincent reluctantly left the house. Vincent, relying on an address he found snooping on Kendrick's computer, attempted to come to our new home but was shocked to find himself at a police station. Kendrick had anticipated Vincent might look through his computer and deliberately placed false information where it would easily be found. By not locking the computer, to avoid Vincent possibly destroying it, Kendrick left the nearest police station's address, along with some interior photos from a remodeling company, tricking Vincent completely. Vincent then headed to the care facility where Taylor was residing, but faced with the reality that Taylor, now a resident, couldn't possibly take care of him. Vincent was declared estranged face-to-face. With no way to reach Cordelia, Vincent was left in despair and began living in a cheap apartment. Initially hanging out with friends, Vincent was forced to start working part-time jobs as he now had to pay his rent and utility bills. His educational background and corporate experience quickly landed him jobs. But his discriminatory attitude and pride in his elite status didn't change, leading to swift resignations from each new job. Eventually, interviewers turned away from Vincent due to his extensive history of short-lived jobs, seeing him as problematic. Vincent finally realized that his prized educational background and corporate experience were of no value. When we met by chance at a supermarket, Vincent appeared thin and worn, struggling even for food, his clothes tattered. Upon seeing me, Vincent desperately clung to me, and I conveyed Cordelia's directive. We were told by Cordelia not to provide any assistance to you, Vincent. You're no longer considered a son, and even if you struggle with money or need food, we were asked not to help. Hearing this, Vincent collapsed to his knees. Before cohabiting, Cordelia had warned us about Vincent's unemployed status and arrogant behavior at home. Cordelia had hoped that seeing Kendrick's positive approach to his new venture might spark some competitiveness in Vincent. Resolved to disown Vincent if this attempt failed, the in-laws were prepared to cut ties with him during this move. We had intended to support Vincent towards independence, but that resolve shattered when we were treated as failures and incompetent from day one. Realizing he was truly abandoned by his entire family, Vincent broke down, begging me for money or food. I reiterated Cordelia's words, shook Vincent off, and drove away. Through the rearview mirror, I saw Vincent remained huddled and motionless. With a sigh, I thought of it as divine retribution for neglecting the in-laws who were willing to support him, and took a slightly longer route home. As for my husband and me, with Vincent gone, we were freed from the stress of being treated like servants and have been enjoying our new life in this new land. Kendrick and Tarek's company, though initially faced challenges during setup, gradually gained trust from those around us and is doing well. Kendrick, despite being busy, is happy working in the industry he loves alongside Tarek, which makes me happy as well. As the company is on track and expecting to get busier, I've decided to work part-time there to support Kendrick's endeavor. We keep in touch with the in-laws, occasionally visiting them for meals, maintaining a good relationship. We vowed to live each day without arrogance, grateful for the support from those around us, no matter how busy or difficult our situation may be. I am grateful to Kendrick, and Kendrick is grateful to me as we happily live our daily lives.